There you go.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. As always, you know what to do.
Yep. You're good.
Cool. Okay, hey, so short week here at CSE. Obviously, we had the July 4th holiday, and the studio was closed on Monday and Tuesday. So we only had a few days to get things done. We got a bunch of things done this week, but again, short week. And going into this week, I had told you folks that we want to do spend some time focusing on certain things. Stability. We had, for us, too many issues with the client crashing. Now, in the scheme of things, not a lot compared to some games I've played, but for us, you know, too many at this stage. So we did a bit of a reset on some things. We put in some more what are called asserts, so that people who are playing on Hatchery, whether it's IT or Alpha or us, will have some more information about things that are going on, and generally just cleaning up and improving things. So we got a lot done this week in that regard. We hope to have a test this weekend. It's not looking great, only because we really want to take care of all the crashes that we were seeing.
I'm going to do the hand. You're
okay.
A little blurry.
So, you know, we'll keep you posted. We're going to be running another in-office test. We've been trying, you know, really to get something up for this weekend, but it may not happen. There's no real point to putting something up if we're going to just see the same behavior, albeit improved, that we saw last week. So we want to knock everything out we can find, and when that happens, we will certainly go back up for testing, whether it's this week or if it's not, there we go. If it's not this week, it will be next week. So let's get to the top 10. Number one, and actually today, I thought actually for one of the rare times, our top 10-ish was actually top 10-ish. No, it's 11 today. So the first one I just talked about, it's stability. Like I said, we didn't have a huge number of crashes, but enough that we were concerned. 30% of them, it turns out, were due to an audio issue, and that has been fixed. We're still trying to track down the exact cause of it, but that behavior has been reduced, hopefully entirely removed. Dave has been doing some work on refactoring models, because that led to some of the crashes. And so, you know, again, very good progress, but not quite as much as, you know, we had hoped to get in, albeit even in a short week. So, you know, we'll see, but lots of nice progress there. Next, the make command on Hatchery. So yeah, crafting coming along really nicely. Obviously, we've been talking about the UI that MeHuge has done, which has allowed crafting to be much more, well, the crafting experience to be a lot less painful and more fun. The last major bit of the, I guess we could call it the basic crafting system, because we're not talking about salvaging or other things yet, has been put in. And that is simply the make command. And of course, you know, what the make does is assemble the bits and pieces from your other actions, and then create a full item out of it. So whether it's taking alloys, whether it's taking other mini items or small items or sub items, and then making a full sword, that is now starting to go into the game. So that also will be ready, of course, for the start of Beta 1. Item number 3, shadows. So we talked about this last week, about how you know, greatly improved our shadow system was. We showed some really nice before and after pics. which showed the blurriness of the initial shadows to the very much more concise shadows from the new system. So what we are focusing on this week is improving the performance of the shadow system. So this is pretty typical, right? Put in the system, iterate on it. We put in the system, it ran great. It was one of our, if not our, top performance hits was due to the shadow system, which is pretty typical. I mean, if you look at most games out there that have shadows, you always get a performance hit for it. You know, the good news is we've only begun now to optimize it, and second, this is a perfect thing for the graphic settings that we already have in the game, where you can certainly tone down the draw quality and even shut off shadows if you want. So you folks with older cards, you know, you don't have to suffer. You can simply go in and hit no when it asks you where it lists whether you even want shadows drawn. So yeah, improvements are, you know, improvements incoming, and speed improvements incoming, and certainly you know, especially on newer cards, yeah, it just looks fantastic. Next up, player inventory. So we've been talking about this for a few weeks. We threw our most junior of junior programmers into the deep end of the pool. We have a tendency to do that, and while he's made some very good progress on the inventory system, JB is working a little more closely with him to get that into production. So we're hoping by the end of next week, you folks will see it in the game. We actually did a review on it today on the art for it. So, you know, now it's just a matter of making sure when it goes in, it's as performant as possible and works. Sorry for the tropish phrase, works as we intend it to work. Next up, Siege Engines targeting. So yeah, more work on Siege Engines, more work on targeting. Matt is making sure that you folks have options when you're using any kind of Siege Engine, because frankly, you're going to need different aiming options. And this is everything from tab targeting to the kind of targeting that you've seen already, to manual targeting, or manual aiming, excuse me, because after all, you kind of can't see what's behind the castle walls, can you? At least from the outside. Well, you can, but that's a whole other thing. But for most of you, you won't be able to see it without help. And being able to aim your catapult and time it, and make sure that, and learn, excuse me, how to make sure that the whatever is being fired, whether it's a bolt, a ball, or a leukopan, ends up the way and in the place it should. Next up, realm portals. So we did another pass on the Viking, and a rough pass on the TDD as well portal. So you'll see some of these in today's updates. Obviously making progress on that. Animations are the next two. So we've had Sandra and Scott working on various things. In one case, it's a dual wield, where you're swinging. Hey, you're singing. Sorry, I got confused. I thought I was doing a telethon for another game. Anyway, swinging with a club and a torch and a sword, and also more work on the Siege Engine animations. So obviously what you've seen so far with the Scorpion is not working as intended. We will have them fully animated, and the work we're doing on them to get them fully animated will apply, of course, to catapults and other things you're going to see in the game. Number 9 is character and armor material improvements. So yeah, this is an ongoing thing. As you guys and gals who have been in this, not even from the beginning, but just for the last couple of years, have seen the improvements that we have made in our armor and weapons. And this is just another pass of that from John. And we're going to be continuing to do that, you know, now, next year, year after that. It's something that you kind of never stop doing. So, you know, lots of good stuff incoming there. Number 10, mines. So you've heard me mention this before, and certainly it's something that I care about. I know you folks care about. Originally, we had said that all we were going to have for beta 1 is just nodes up that you hammer. We're hoping to have more than that, and that's where the mines come in. So, you know, we'll see what happens, but we're looking pretty good on the tech side, and I know the art side, which has already done some good work, is going to continue to make our mines look really cool. And that should be not a guarantee, but it should be a beta 1 thing. I can't imagine it won't be, given where we are already with seamless zone transitions and what we can do, you know, on the art side. But there's always a chance. On the other hand, I hope and I expect that that's going to be another one of the areas we over-deliver for beta 1. And finally, from the art side again, the battle groups UI. So I've mentioned battle groups in passing, and I'll message manage. How many words with M can I say before I get totally confused? I will mention them. There we go. Again, as we move forward, and then at some point, obviously, we will have JB deliver a full presentation on it. But you'll see some of the, you know, early concepts, you know, for, you know, the UI. So yeah, that's it. It is almost 4:15. I want to keep this short today because I want to get back to things that I'm going to do, including hopefully finding out and working and helping out in terms of getting a test running tonight. So let's try to keep it maybe a half hour on the Q&A, which is why I also try to speed through the top 10-ish as quickly as possible. So yeah, let's go to the Q&A, please.
All right, guys, go ahead and start. You started talking about the mines, and you were like, you know, not a total promise, but I think we can do this. And the next thing up was, oh, mines confirmed.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Odilvik asks, question from Bad Luna Rising: has female friends who are interested in the game?
Yep. Okay, I got this. Yeah, I looked at that. I read some of the questions, you know, before the stream, in the hopes of speeding things up. So in terms of that, we don't track that kind of demographic. And just to give a very quick overview, Backer wanted to know what kind of percentage we have in terms of male users, female users. What are we doing to encourage female users? That sort of thing. The important takeaway from that is really twofold. First, we don't pay any attention right now to whether a backer is male or female. I don't care. You know, we're not looking at that. I don't want to know. It's not something that right now is important to us. We are focused on making a great game. We're not trying to gear it to men. We're not trying to gear it to women. We are simply trying to make a great game. In terms of going forward, would we have this information? The odds are no. I mean, let's face it, people lie. You can back the name with, you can back the game with somebody else's credit card. You can do surveys, you can do all sorts of things, but you'll never know the real numbers because there's no way to, not unless we do with a Val identity thing where, you know, you actually do know who's on the other end. But even then, you still don't know because a person could simply be using another person's identity to pay for the game, and then you know, their own to play the game. Next.
I have not had another question here.
Oh, wow.
There we go. Super Narco, any plan to add pets in the game?
Well, spirit pets are already confirmed as, you know, part of this game. Down the road, I'd love to. I've always said that I am a big pet class person. I would love to have that, and in terms of just basic pets to play around with, to have with you, that all depends on, as always, system performance.
Inflicting Megahertz asks, how would siege weapon tab targeting look like for castle parts, or would hitting castles always be manual aiming?
Exactly.
Yep.
That's the challenge, right? There is no solution that works best, and no one solution. You can always use manual aiming. That's your default behavior. Certainly you can't use tab targeting with a million blocks. On the other hand, could tab targeting or a smarter interface be usable in beta? Yes. What will we have in live? Because that's the real question. Will it be, hey, you have to manually aim everything, or is there, some sort of aiming modes? We've talked about this with the backers before. Beta is different than live. Right now, the key is to get various modes in, get the siege engines in, get them fun, make sure that everything is working the way it needs to work, and then as a group, CSE and its backers can talk about things. I mean, personally, I think we need multiple aiming modes. I don't think one mode really does fit all, but that's something we can, again, talk about. And don't forget, magic.
A couple of easy ones here. Zadrid asks, will we ever get a tour of the Seattle office?
Oh, sure. It's even smaller than this one.
Yeah,
the
shouldn't take long.
The tour is really, oh, look, there's a room. Oh, wait, there's another little room. Oh, there's another little room. There's your tour. It's a very small space because it's obviously a much smaller team. So, happy to show it at some point, but if you think this is particularly unimpressive, that office is even more unimpressive size-wise.
Francis Baudelaud asks another easy one here. Can we get a VFX live stream with Mike soon? Which is...
Sure.
That's just a matter
I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
We got to get Mike comfortable. I mean, one of the things that actually the first person, Bad Lunar Rising, had posted on the forums was a question about getting more female devs here to stream. Look, it's the same thing I always say about anyone here. We don't force anyone to stream. You've seen Brittany pop in, I think, at least on some photos. Michelle streams. Sandra doesn't love streaming. We haven't gotten Christina yet in front of a camera. And Anna's in, now Germany. So, getting people to actually stream, especially female devs, is not something that we're ever going to force somebody to do. I mean, that's just not fair. And in terms of Mike, if Mike is comfortable streaming, I'll be happy to have him stream.
And I can actually add more to that.
Sure.
With all the tools that we gave Mike, Mike wanted to get some time to learn them all so he wasn't cursing at the screen during the stream and had some kind of things to work with, which he's used to working with a library. And we gave him too many new tools. So once he gets kind of settled back in, he will stream again.
Awesome. Having Mike cursing during a stream, probably not a great idea.
Still around a pet question from Super Narco. I was a huge fan of the Bone Dancer in Deok. Are we going to have something with similar gameplay in Camelot?
Stay tuned.
Okay. Hey, Rehnquist, I see the question that you posted, but I don't quite understand what it is you're asking, so if you can find another way to phrase it. Does a daily, Mia Tallis asks, does a daily report mean daily downtime? Could it be avoided somehow?
So that's something we've talked about. I mean, look, the bottom line is this. We think we're going to have certainly enough bandwidth on the server side, even though that's a contradiction. We really shouldn't use that together. Let me say enough power on the server side that we can be running these reports while the game is going on and not have any effect on the game. At least that's the plan. If that's the case, then we won't have any downtime. But let's face it, at the end of the day, if there's an absolutely minimal downtime at a very inconvenient hour for the vast majority of people, that won't be the end of the world. We don't want to have to do that. Again, I've said this from the beginning all the way back at the Kickstarter, that that's not our preference. But I just want people to be sure that, I want them to be assured that we didn't just think of this at the last moment and said, hey, surprise, we're going to be taking the game down every day for, a half hour, 15 minutes, so we can run all these reports. We're hoping that we can process this in the background while the game is running and then make adjustments to it based on what happens, certainly in the last 15 minutes, the last half hour, so then it should only be a delta to the already existing reports. So if that's the case, then there won't be a problem with that.
Go-Kart Brothers has a question that we need to hit every 2 or 3 streams. I'm not exactly sure. I think these 2 questions are related. What's in your pocket? When will you free backers from the NDA to be able to stream testing?
What's in my pocket?
I think he means like maybe back pocket. Like, what are you hiding?
I would expect, because right now, well,
it's the best I got.
Keys. More keys.
I love the fact that you're going to go ahead and answer that.
And in terms of when can we lift the NDA, we will lift the NDA when we are comfortable with the way the game looks and plays. It's really that simple. As I've said before, building an engine is hard. We've said this right from the get-go. It's taken us longer, certainly, to get to where we are today than any of us thought. The worst thing we could do now would be to jump the gun. Can you imagine? Let's say we start streaming and we have what we have now, our placeholder animations or animations where they're not working the way we intend them to work, or siege engines that yes, it fires a bolt, it fires an arrow. It doesn't even fire a bolt yet, and people go, oh, is this all these guys did in these many years? Oh, blah blah blah. So there's no win for us there. There's no way that that won't happen in today's world. We know that. So we're just going to wait, and when everything is working that we need for Beta 1 to work the way it was supposed to work, we will happily lift the NDA, because at that point we will have an animation system that is as powerful as we could have hoped to have. We'll have animations that actually are taking advantage of that animation system. We will actually have VFX that Mike didn't do quickly in order to just get something in for testing. We'll have seamless zone transitions working, so you folks will be jumping around, and people who are live streaming will be jumping around the world and not seeing any kind of lag. We'll have combat abilities working the way they should. That's the time you want to stream. As I said to one backer who was doing refunds this afternoon, look, we've waited a long time to get here. Waiting another few months to get us, or to put us in the position where our streams are really worthwhile and show off the game the way we want to show it off, that's a small ask.
Okay, I got a lot of good questions that have come up. Spike Druid asks, what's the one thing you keep hoping gets asked so you can talk about it, but no one has yet?
Oh, that's an awesome question. Let me think about that, Spike. That's a really good one.
Casper 23 says, currently when you fall from high up, you go into a skydive-ish animation. Once you hit the ground, will you go splat or stand up, then go through the death animation?
I'm hoping you go splat, because that would just be cool. And yeah, I think that going into the skydiving animation is awesome. It's another good feature of the animation system. It allows us to do that very easily. That's not pre-cooked. That's not something where every time you jump off or something, you immediately go into the skydive. That's not how that works. So that's pretty cool. And yes, I certainly would like you to go splat, when you land from a skydive, especially when obviously you're going to die. Falling damage confirmed.
Yeah, each one of those extra little features are a lot of fun. And the cool thing is we've got Andrew to help us just add in these extra little things that really sell the animation system. Can we get a beta timeline in terms of Andrew's beard length?
You'd have to ask Andrew. I think he is absolutely intent on keeping the beard growing and growing until we get into beta.
This should be a quick answer. We do this every once in a while. Super Narco asks, it might have been asked or told before. Sorry about that. Are you going to have multiple servers based on geographic location? Multiple ones per continent, or just big one per continent?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I don't mind answering that every so often again. A part of that is up to our backers. In the lovely world of cloud computing, it is easier than obviously ever before to have remote service. Back in the, obviously the Dark Age of Camelot days, and same with the Warhammer days, we couldn't do that easily. We needed partners, or you needed people actually in the territory to take care of that. Now we can spin stuff up all over the world, and as long as there's a good cloud hosting service. So our intent is certainly to have some servers here in the U.S. and then servers in Europe. Obviously, we want to hear from our backers, so it's going to be a lot of you Europeans who are going to help determine the fate of these servers. We're not going to insist on having everything in the U.S. I've been very clear about this, but I want to hear from you folks out there. What do you want? Do you want to all play on the U.S. servers? Do you want to have a mixture of some U.S. servers, some European servers? We can't wait to talk to you about it.
Okay, Rehnquist has his question back in here. There was a founders package that allowed people to get in on being an early supporter of CU so they could get nice benefits, in parentheses like the $1 per year for life. Is there some sort of similar package for people who want to join at beta? So if you join at beta, you can get a similar deal.
Yeah, those are still up there.
Yeah, that's still there.
Yeah, the store has the Forever package. So that's the same thing as what the backers have. Different price, but the same thing. And it'll be more expensive, obviously, when we go to the next stage of pricing, which will be after we get into beta.
Francis Badalude asks, are there any visual improvements coming before or during beta to how the sky and water will look like?
Oh my God, yes. Yes, 1,000 times yes. That's in my document, the 30-day doc that I've been talking about, that the team has been digesting for a little bit now. So sky and water are absolutely called out as things that we need to improve. Well, I don't want to guarantee, because in the scheme of things, they're a slightly lower priority than other things that we need to work on graphically. But those are things I would certainly expect to see improved for Beta 1.
Purple Polo Player has a good question, which might be more an Andrew thing. He says, I remember a video where you all showed off code that will prevent wall hacking. Can you talk more about security procedures that you're implementing?
No.
No.
No. But look, the biggest security thing that we can talk about is what we've been doing from day one, which is PhysX on the server. The physics system, using obviously NVIDIA's PhysX and as well our own work, doesn't prevent all hacking. It can't. But what it can do is prevent all hacking that involves the server. When it comes to when it is related to anything in terms of physics. Obviously, the rest of our code is also there to make sure that you can't hack spells and things like that. But as we all know, some of the biggest cheats over the years have been, in speed hacking and all sorts of things like that. PhysX and our system guarantees that it just can't happen. You can hack your client, so maybe you think, you're jumping across the world, but we know you're not. No one else sees you doing that, and once we detect that you're doing that sort of thing, yeah, bad things will happen to your account. So we're doing that. We're doing the usual, but hopefully, continue to be clever encryption things, or we'll be doing more of that. So, we've got other things in mind. But look, no matter what we do, no matter how clever we are, no matter how clever our solution is, even with PhysX, there are going to be some things that we're going to miss. We're trying to make sure we don't miss anything major. And, one of the things that I know Andrew has, emphasized in the past, and I think has also talked about, is things like duping, item duping, which, was never a problem, obviously, on my games back at Mythic. We don't want it to be a problem here, and it's something that we obviously, I think, have a good solution for, because even one is too many. So yeah, that is something we care very much about, and has been a mental focus of ours from the beginning.
Roadrunner LXS very clearly would like to sometime in the future have some water cavern swimming. Is that on your radar at all? Caves,
Yes.
swimming underwater.
Yes, absolutely. Just don't do it in armor. You'll drown.
Audrey Cortesia asks, when did you work the first time with Andrew, and how long have you known him?
Oh, I've known him since Mythic. He wasn't there for the founding. He obviously came along later. He came along post Dog Age, but I've known him a long time. He is without a doubt the smartest and most clever programmer that I've ever had the pleasure to work with. I've worked with there've been a bunch of very smart guys at Mythic. Andrew's both smart and clever, and I like that. He has a tendency to think outside the box, which is a tendency I fully approve of. It's something that I think, to be quite good at, and he's also quite good at it. He's super at it, especially when it comes to programming. So, frankly, we wouldn't. And I said this even back with March on Oz. I wouldn't have started this company if he weren't my partner.
I don't know how swimming in caves turned into naked swimming confirmed, but it has.
No, that's fair, because now what they said, you have to strip off your armor.
I guess we're going to have nude too. Mick Armstrong just dropping in to say keep up the good work and way to stick to your guns and make a game the right way. So thank you for that. Regular question we get from Super Narco. He says, last one for me. I know the game is mainly PvP oriented, but will it be possible to play PvE only without missing a lot of content? Equipment.
Well, look, you have to play, if you are a combatant, you have to go into, combat. You have to fight. If you want to be a crafter, you don't have to go into RVR at all. There is no PvE leveling. There are plenty of things you can do, and there'll probably be some more things you can do in PvE than people might have expected from the beginning. But it's not a leveling game via PvE unless you're crafting. So that's the focus. Now, if you want to be involved in RVR, if you want to be a combatant, but you don't want to spend all your time PvPing, will there be things to do? Absolutely. We've also said that from the beginning. But if you want to level your character up, if you want to get new abilities, if you want to get more rewards from the king, at some point you're going to have to go into RVR. And that doesn't necessarily mean running around in groups. That can mean keep defense. That can mean doing things that help your realm in other ways. But there is no leveling track for or through PvE.
Okay, I got two good ones from Zeruz. Would you be in support of a jail system, or would be willing to build a system that would support that in CU?
Well, jail system would only really be necessary if you were able to do things within your own realm that would cause you to be jailed, unless you're talking about hostages, essentially from the other realms, which we're not going to do.
Let's see. Large Marge Gaming. Any chance to add a monthly subscription now that just adds months of play plus bonus items and or time once you go live? I don't know if you've thought of that. That's why I asked it.
That's a fascinating idea.
Yeah. And I thought you might segue into something else. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Huh.
But it's an interesting question.
So essentially what you're asking for is a way to prepay your subs, correct me if I'm wrong, to prepay your subs and get additional rewards because of that, and prepay them now essentially. Is that what you're saying? So, answer that at some point, and we'll take it from there. Keep going with other questions.
Yeah, I gotta look.
Okay, well, actually, hold that. That's all right. I got a question from Spike, an answer for Spike. So Spike Druid had asked earlier, what's the one question that I'm not asked a lot that I wish people would ask? And I think the question, at least for now, at least because my focus is on this in particular, is what excites me about our siege system. And so hopefully you like this question. I mean, I happen to like it a lot. What excites me about what we're doing with Sieges is what you're seeing right now is only the first step. I've been thinking about how to build a great siege system for a long time. I mean, many years. And I think I've got a plan, at least I've got a vision for the plan, that will make our siege system really different, really interesting, and a lot of fun. Siege is a really important part of this game. It's not just, making blocks essentially fall down. It's not just about, taking other people's stuff. It's about having an experience where, you get to do different things, where you feel part of a real siege. Certainly I know a lot of people who played in Dark Age of Camelot early on had that. Not because the system was so incredibly innovative. Frankly, obviously, it hadn't been done before in an MMO, but it was based more on reality. So it was like, oh, look at what we came up with. We invented this whole RAM thing. So what I want is to get that kind of feeling back again, for you guys, that, when you are participating in these sieges, you are having to use some strategy. You're having to be clever. You're having to do things that you might, not necessarily have expected, because maybe the system was going to be a little more shallow than you thought. So that's something that really excites me. It's something I think can be a really important part of the game, and can be a very important part, obviously, of testing going forward. It's something I care very much about. It's something I'm very excited about, and it's something that I think, when I think about all the MMOs that have had sieges in them, I think there's an awful lot of untapped potential, and frankly, like a good keg during frat week, we want to tap the heck out of it.
What was it?
So hopefully you like that answer.
Large Marge Gaming did say yes. That was what he was asking.
Okay, that's interesting. I actually hadn't thought about it, simply because I assumed people would, frankly, would just get the lifetime sub and not worry about it. So let me think about that, because then I'd also want to do something for the lifetime sub holders, but that could segue into something. So good thought. Ping me in another month if you don't hear anything about this, because I definitely want to think about this.
Mick Armstrong asks, as someone who wants to main a crafter, as cool as supplying my army with the best arms and armor in the land would be, any insight into the roles I will have in combat, i.e. siege equipment operator?
Yeah, we want to get you in sieges. We want you to be helping to repair things in sieges. We want to give you, certain skills in sieges as well, whether it's traps, whether it's disarming traps or laying traps, as well as working the siege equipment, so as to encourage crafters to, come in, get involved in RVR without having to necessarily be great one-on-one PvPers. Because I think a lot of the challenge for people who, I don't want to say they're afraid of RVR, because that's the wrong word, but who don't want to participate in RVR or PvP games, is they're afraid, and I think that is a good usage of the word, that they'll simply die every time. That, that the other players on the other side, being more skilled, whether it's skilled with a capital S or skilled with a lowercase s, will just, kick their butts up and down the street. And look, let's face it, if you have a very experienced player in most games, especially the vertical progression games, yeah, that new player, especially if they're not an experienced PvPer, is just gonna die, and die a lot, and die fast, and that can be very discouraging. On the other hand, if we can have roles for people who are not hardcore PvPers, who like and play games, and so it's not like, ooh, games are brand new and they have no idea what they are, but they just can't compete in your typical, one-on-one or group v group. If we can give them good roles in sieges and other things where they can participate in RVR, but not in that sort of same manner, then there may be an opportunity to get more people into this game to try it out, and that's what I'm hoping happens.
Dendavia asks, any update on NVIDIA GameWorks modules in CU?
No, but it's on the list for Beta 1.
Super Narco, just FYI, everybody, there's quite a few people who've said some really nice things in here. I do see it. Thank you very much. All that stuff's very nice. Super Narco.
I don't see it.
I
God,
know.
he doesn't even tell me.
Well, I'm trying to tell you this way. There's people saying nice things. Keep up the good work. Super Narco says, actually, I do have one other question. Do you have any plan to try to stop people doing Zerg bus running unless you don't mind that?
Yeah, look, Zerging, this is a question, Narco, that I am asked, if not every week, every other week. Look, Zergs are going to be part of every game. People are going to try to Zerg. We know that. It's becoming a very accepted way, at least by some people, to play a game. Mainly because, as always, a large percentage of people want to level their characters as quickly and as efficiently as possible. And if Zerging is essentially efficient, not necessarily in terms of time alone, but simply, hey, if I run with the furball, it may take a little longer, or it may get a little more frustrating at times, but I know we're going to just roll. We're going to roll through people. We're going to roll through objectives. Therefore, I'm going to be able to level my character. And we certainly want to get away from that in CU. And there are a number of ways that we're going to try very hard to discourage people from doing that. So, we'll have to see how it goes. We have some pretty good ideas here. And certainly it's not like we haven't played most of the games where Zerging, or even made some of them where Zerging has been an issue.
Okay, so there was a question in here that I've been accused of skipping, which I thought was a kind of a joke question based off the conversations with all the CSE people in here. And it was basically... Crap, where'd it go?
Toilet, usually.
Oh, there it is. Jeez, this little scroll wheel. Dark Society Network asks, since CSE will publish and maintain CU in Europe themselves, will you extend the reach of your banhammer to there as well, or is this the one weapon you will do? I believe what he's asking is, can you ban people in Europe?
Yeah, of course.
And
so DSN, let's be sure, I understand the question, because it seems a little bit off. So if you're asking me, will the banhammer apply in Europe as it, does here? The answer is, of course, yes. The last thing we'd want to do is open servers and treat our European, backers well, except for the banhammer. Look, I happily brought out the banhammer, in the Warhammer days, and not the easiest thing when EA is your Lord and Master saying, yeah, we're going to lose some money each month because we're banning a lot of people. But in terms of any other interpretation of that question, please ask it again, because I think I answered it. I hope I answered it. Because I don't know what you would mean other than that the way I stated your question. So please let me know if I'm wrong.
Okay, Zaruz has asked this question twice, just to be safe. Will you be able to put out a burning ally, say with a water spell?
Yes, absolutely. Of course, that might turn them to steam first, and hey, maybe you could ask them for a little extra for the steam bath.
Eric Dread 2. I know there will be no loot drops from NPCs in the depths, but what about something like rare ability components and such that can only be gotten from drops? I'm thinking perhaps you can only learn this specific style of sword parry by fighting so-and-so baddie sword master, that kind of thing.
Very good, yes. There are some things that you'll be able to do and get from creatures that you fight, whether it's at depths or potentially other places as well. So, yeah, well done.
Mia Talus. Will CSE employees be allowed to represent CSE Guild in-game and participate in RVR, or will they have to play undercover?
Yeah, we've been very clear about that. CSE folks actually playing, on CSE accounts have to actually be known as CSE players, so that way no one can be accused of cheating. Oh, that's really a CSE guy playing undercover, and he's got advantages. That can't happen. You can't have a CSE flagged account and play in the game unless it's known that you're a CSE player. On the other hand, having a CSE guild that actually participates in RVR is problematic, simply because even if we say we're being honest, and even if we say that no, you can't edit any of the weapons, you can't edit any of the abilities to help yourself, that could, cause some concern among players, and I would agree with that. On the other hand, if people here want to have their own accounts that are, regular old accounts, they can't touch them, that's a different story. But we really don't want, as a general rule, unless it's a specific kind of event like, hey, CSE is holding a fort and you guys got to kill them, that sort of thing. Having devs playing can end very badly. Very badly.
Okay, DNS, as you called him, did say, yes, it was sort of a joke question, but he did want to know if MJ would be personally doing the banning.
Yes, absolutely. I like banning accounts. I really do. Banning users because they've been doing something, sometimes dumb, not as big a fan of. Banning gold sellers? Yeah, I'm good with that. I'm really good with that. I've been very clear for way too many years now that it's not that I hate gold sellers. I just hate gold sellers in my games because our games say, hey, no gold selling, and we don't sell gold. In other games, it's up to other devs, other publishers, to set their own rules. It's simply, we have a set of rules, we ask people to follow them. If you're not going to follow them, if you're going to try to disrupt play, if you're going to try to be, a less than upstanding a less than upstanding citizen, I am all for banning them, and I have no problem, absolutely no problem, closing down accounts. I do enjoy it. I really do.
Let's see. Taminos has less of a question and more of a fight in words here. I'm interested in seeing. Stop scrolling. I'm interested. Jesus. If I hold the button down, you're not supposed to move, but that doesn't seem to work. I'm interested in seeing if CU combines North America with EU players. From experience in a few games, the EU players, frankly, are more into and better at siege warfare style PvP. Hope North America learns to up their game.
Nice. Challenge accepted. It will be fun. I agree, to see what happens. And certainly, look, we're going to get a good taste of that during beta, because we won't be running most of the time North American and European servers at the same time. Most of the time we'll pick a region and go, okay, this test is on this server. And we may not even tell you guys, where it's running. So that'll be fun too.
There's also just a couple of questions here I've skipped, and when usually that happens, it's because the information is always readily available on our website. And has asked, can we get a quick list, top 5 big ticket things needed to get to beta? And I was going to preamble whatever you wanted to say, Mark, with that. A lot of that information is
fine.
On our,
no, I got it. So Ziz, top 5. That's easy. Animation systems, VFX systems, and what I mean by those systems that not only they are in and running, but they're running the way we need them to be. So that means being performant, of course, not crashing, giving us the flexibility we need, to have not only good-looking animations, but a powerful system for that in VFX. Sieges. If we don't have, sorry, actually, let me take a step back because that's too high level and I should drill down more. Building destruction. So what you've seen so far, as you know, is a much more simplified version of building destruction. Like, we don't have rubble working yet. We haven't tested it yet with enough different buildings all at the same time being destroyed. So building destruction has to be at the next level. We want to be showing the destruction, the effects of destruction better. Now, will we have that all for Beta 1? Probably not. We don't need it all for Beta 1, but we need enough of it in that we can rightly call Beta. Siege engines working as expected. Scorpion is only the first one. I certainly would like one or two more for the start of Beta. Next up is, and this is probably an overriding one, so it's a bit of a cheat to say it, so excuse me, but it is important, and that's stability. We're not going to call Beta with an unstable client or an unstable server just to call Beta. That's cheating. We're not going to do that. You've seen our efforts. I know you in particular obviously have looked at and been watching our efforts for a long time now, and we've never tried to cheat that way, and we never will. We're not going to rush it out just to say we rushed it out, and so that is really important. So one of the reasons we're doing what we're doing now, and one of the things, for example, that's in my 30-day doc, is that every month I want to make sure that we have at least one break the build test. I'd prefer to do that even more often if possible, because that's a really important test. And while we can do a lot of that with bots, no matter how smart our bots are, well, let me take that back. No matter how not smart our bots are for Beta 1, and as good as they are at testing things, you never know what happens when you bring in players as well. So I want to make sure that we do that every single month, and preferably more often, just to make sure nothing is snuck in. That all of a sudden that, hey, last week we were able to support, 10,000 people at the same time, jumping in, or 5,000 people jumping in, and for some reason this week we can only do 2,500. So, that's really important. So hopefully you like that top 5. Okay, guys, 5-minute warning. I'm running over, but you had some great questions, so I let it go. But 5-minute warning.
Okay, Super Narco, your English is certainly better than my Spanish, so I'm going to parse your question a little bit. Talking about gold sellers, will you implement an economy system in the game? I think he also says between different areas within the world, and will currency have an important part to leveling your character?
I got it. I think I got it.
Okay.
So yeah, so one of the ways, of course, to deter gold sellers is to limit the effect, I think is probably the best way of putting it, of gold on the economy. So while gold is a factor in this game, of course, what's more important, and I know I've talked about this before, but what's even more important is your reputation, your realm rewards. Everything that you have done is going to be more important than gold. Gold is important. You have to be able to pay for things. It's not a full barter system, obviously. But what drives the game at the end of the day, what drives your ability to buy a bigger house, or to buy a bigger parcel of land, or to do anything like that, is not real gold. That is only one part of it. I hope I don't want to say it's the least important part, but it might be in some ways the least important part. Because even if you have 10 million gold, you can't buy a giant parcel of land unless the king has given you permission to buy that land. And you can't build, a structure with 10 billion blocks unless the king has given you that permission as well. So I think that's one very important way of keeping gold sellers out. Gold sellers, of course, as we all know, make their money by doing generally very repetitive actions over a long course of time in order to produce, whether it's, obviously drops that can be sold for gold, or just the cash is generated from, completing quests and, killing things. And then selling that to people who don't have that kind of who don't have that time. That, in this game, is just not a viable strategy. PvE works beautifully for gold sellers, because they know if they go to this coordinate and do these certain things, rinse, wash, repeat for the next week, they will have a certain amount of money at the end of the day. Our game doesn't work this way. You can't. You can try, it's just not a winning strategy, because you never know what you're going to run into. You'd have to have big groups of gold sellers, and even then, and now they're going to try zerging. Well, gold sellers, at least a lot of them, and I'm not in any way meaning to insult people who are playing these games legitimately and who can generate gold. A lot of the people who play these games do it via essentially a very rote pattern that they are taught by the people who are either employing them, or they're doing it for friends. And they know that, hey, as long as they do these certain things, they'll always be okay. VR doesn't work that way. So I don't think it is going to, that sort of strategy would play out. And again, when you factor in just the fact that as important as gold is, it's nowhere near as important as your reputation, with the king. You can't sell that. You can't trade that. You can, if these gold sellers earn it and get these rewards, they can't pass them on to you. So, I think that's really going to help discourage a lot of the gold sellers from even trying to come into this game. So hopefully that reassures you.
So as we get to the end here, I've got a few CSE folks answering questions as well. So, Roguely Visage, what kind of gold sinks will you put into the game to battle mudflation?
Okay, and that's a great one, because then we'll end with that, because we have a backer who sent us something that I want to call out as usual, and then we'll call it a day. In terms of gold sinks, a bunch. We started with the most obvious one that comes from obviously Dark Age and other games, as well as my old MUDs, which is item degradation. Stuff wears out, folks. We've said this right from the beginning. So that's number one. And that's always going to be, number one on the hit list, because everything you use, everything you wear, everything you build with wears out. Second, obviously, the whole crafter thing. If you're a player, if you're a combatant, you're going to have to go to the crafters to get them to do things for you. That's going to cost you some gold. And so that becomes a gold sink essentially for you, because you can't, build your own, buildings, not the way they can. You can't get all the same materials that they can. So you're going to have to pay them to do certain things. So that's another gold sink. Whether it's, things like paying for your land, paying for maintenance of your land and taxes on your land, that'll be another gold sink. So there's lots of ways, whether we're taking lessons from the old MUDs or even some new ways. We want to have an economy that is balanced. Certainly it is incredibly difficult to keep an economy balanced forever. We did a really good job back in the Dark Age days. Much credit, goes to all the guys and gals, especially, one you don't hear much about, the gentleman by the name of Dave Rickey, who worked with me and others on, the spreadsheets that we used to make sure that as you leveled your character, that things would wear out at the right rate. And so that you would, we didn't want to keep everyone broke the entire time, but we wanted to make sure that we weren't generating, an excess amount of cash for the system. So we'll do sort of the same thing here. So with that, folks, it's now 5 o'clock. I ran long. I want to, get to the back a gift, and then we'll say thank you. So I haven't actually looked in this yet. I know it's open. I know who it's from. It's from Ludovic. Okay. And
Oh, wait, Swazi, don't leave yet. Go ahead. Sorry, Swazi's leaving. I want to get his question in there.
okay. And it's a bunch of teas, right? Yep. Flowering variety teas, green teas. Nice. I like tea. I like coffee too. And more tea, more green tea. So, Ludovic, I can't say
What's
what.
in the box?
Oh.
I didn't open that.
Oh, you didn't open it. Sorry. I think it's a tea kettle, maybe? Mug?
It's a cute little.
It's a cute little
Teapot.
teapot. So awesome. Ludovic, thank you. It's great. And here's the top to the teapot. So, teapot. It's still fine. So, yeah, there's a teapot. So, again, Ludovic, thank you very much. Appreciate it as always. And you had something for Swazi?
Yeah, so Swazi is one of our cube builders like Necro, and Swazi had a good question for you.
Oh, sure, shoot.
What would you like him to build for you?
Oh, yeah, well, let's see. What can I say about that, actually? Okay. So, yeah, I think we'll have to have a chat. Yes, or you, Necro, and some others. I want to get your help in building out some of the starting areas, actually, for players. So, yeah, we can talk about that. If you were asking about what you would like, what I would like you to build in the meantime, how about a pub?
Yeah, that's what I thought was going to be the
How about a pub? So in the meantime, if you'd like to build something cool, yeah, pub would be really neat, really nice, good to have.
We might be able to help you out with some props for it too later.
Oh, absolutely.
So don't worry about making a chair.
Yeah, don't worry. Definitely don't worry about that. Cool.
Okay.
Well, folks, like I said, I don't know if we're going to have a test this weekend. We said we were going to focus on stability, and so that has meant certainly fixing some things and adding some new code or improved code, which of course always comes with its own issues. So I don't know if we'll have a test this weekend, excuse me. If not, we will definitely have some tests next week, because we're certainly in a position where if today, for example, was only Wednesday and not Friday, we would be ready certainly by the weekend. I expect to do testing. So I don't know if what we're going to have. You're smiling.
I know, because Swazi said I just finished up a pub.
Oh.
Have you got a second thing?
Oh, okay. Yes, great. Give me 2 seconds. So yeah. So given that it's Friday, I don't know again whether we will have one, but do expect that we will definitely be having a bunch of tests next week. We've gone through a lot of the crashing and lock issues that we were having, thread locking issues that we were having. So
Got to make sure we found them.
we got to make sure we found them, correct. And unfortunately, today is Friday. So Swazi, other building.
Some people suggested realm styles for pubs because you can't have enough pubs.
Yeah, but we don't have as many assets as I'd like to give him to make different realm variations. I want to give him something interesting. What would be interesting besides a pub? See if anyone has anybody have any brilliant ideas for what Swazi should do. I mean, I've got big picture things, but that's stuff I don't want to, have you spend your time on unless we talk about
I'm not
things.
going to repeat Tim's suggestions.
Yeah, I'm sure.
An inn?
That's what I said. An inn pub. Yes. Okay. Here's one. Build an area. So you've seen our docks. Why don't you build a little? If you want to build a little town that would be based around that dock, that would be interesting. See if that stirs anything.
A boatyard was
Yeah.
the suggestion just now.
Yeah. See if that that conjures up anything that you might want to build. How does that sound?
And build an arena is in there. He can so do that.
Awesome. All right, then, folks, as always, we thank you for your patience, especially, now, as we are in the middle of a very hot, what has been a very hot week.
And humid.
Here in, beautiful downtown Fairfax. So we do thank you for your patience. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I have no doubt that it will be rewarded. I know what's coming for beta. I know what's coming in terms of things for our backers via way of saying thank you to you for your patience. So I've got absolutely no doubt that when we get into beta, the vast majority of you will be very glad you stuck around. I really have zero doubt about that. Yeah, like none at all.
And we're headed in a much stronger version of beta.
Oh, well, yeah. And as Tower just said, and I've said this as well last week, I said it on the forums, the beta that you guys are getting, albeit later, is not the beta you would have gotten last year. It just isn't. You've already seen some of the things. You're going to see more things that we're going to do. This is not the beta, of 2016. And I am both sad, but also happy about that it is going to be a much stronger beta. So, keep the faith. Lord knows we are.
We'll keep working hard.
We'll keep doing our jobs. We'll keep working hard for you guys. We'll keep streaming. We'll keep talking. We'll keep answering questions. We'll keep paying refunds.
Let you guys help us test.
All we ask from the vast majority of you is please be patient. We are getting there. And when we ask you to come in and test, especially when we have more things to test, please do so. We want and need that feedback. So, that being said, again, thank you all for your patience. Thanks for dropping by the stream. And yes, I will definitely see you folks next week. So, with that, see ya and have a great weekend.